Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Folks, this is breaking news. The White House has just released the proposal and the framework for the $1.75 trillion plan. On your screen, you'll see this entire framework of the Build Back Better agenda. Okay, so here is what the Build Back Better plan is trying to do. And as you can see on your screen, the Build Back Better agenda will create millions of good paying jobs, enable more Americans to join and remain in the labor force, spur long-term growth, reduce price pressures, and set the United States on course to meet its clean energy ambitions. So what's it going to include? It's going to include investments in children, families, and caregiving that grows the capacity of the American economy. So we're looking at universal preschool for all 3 and 4 year olds, affordable high quality childcare act. In other words, limit childcare costs for families to no more than 7% of income for families earning up to 250% of the state median income. Affordable high quality care for hundreds of thousands of older Americans and people with disabilities in their homes and communities, strengthening an existing program through Medicaid and ending the existing backlog and improving working conditions for home care workers. Expanded child tax credit. Extend for another year the current expanded child tax credit for more than 35 million American households with monthly payments for households earning up to $150,000 per year. Make the refundability of the child tax credit permanent. Also, investments in clean energy and combating climate change. So there's going to be $320 billion of clean energy tax credits. So we're talking 10-year expanded tax credits for utility scale and residential clean energy, transmission and storage, clean passenger and commercial vehicles, and clean energy manufacturing. In short, we're going to see a whole bunch more charging stations for electric vehicles all over the country. Also, resilient investments, $105 billion. So we're talking investments and incentives to address extreme weather. We're talking wildfires, droughts, and hurricanes, including in forests, wetlands, and agriculture. Also, investments and incentives for clean energy technology, manufacturing, and supply chains. We're talking $110 billion. We're talking targeted incentives to encourage new domestic supply chains and technologies like solar, batteries, and advanced materials while boosting the competitiveness of existing industries like steel, cement, and aluminum. Also, clean energy procurement, $20 billion. So this will be money that the government will use to buy next-gen technologies, including long-duration storage, small modular reactors, and clean construction materials. So you can see, folks, this is a pretty significant and a pretty ambitious agenda. Let's go to the next page. And now you'll see affordable care for millions of hardworking families. We're talking Affordable Care Act premium tax credits, extending the expanded Affordable Care Act premium tax credits through 2025. Now, a lot of experts predict that more than 3 million people who would otherwise be uninsured will gain health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. Also, make the Affordable Care Act premium tax credits available through 2025 to 4 million uninsured people in uncovered states. Also, allow Medicare to cover the cost of hearing. Establish a hearing benefit in Medicare, which is an important benefit to many seniors who suffer from hearing disabilities. Now, also, the Build Back Better agenda will bring down costs, reduce inflationary pressures, and strengthen the middle class by allocating $150 billion towards housing. We're talking $150 billion towards housing in rural areas, and funds will go towards building more than 1 million new affordable rental and single family homes, and this will provide rental and down payment assistance and public housing. Also, education beyond high school and workforce development. That's interesting. Reduce costs and expand access to education beyond high school by raising the maximum Pell Grant, providing support to low-income individuals and to minority communities. Also, the earned income tax credit for 17 million low-wage workers. Extend for 1 year the current expanded earned income tax credit for childless workers. Now, what's also interesting is that this plan will attempt to improve our immigration system consistent with the Senate's reconciliation rules. So you can start to see that there's money for immigration as well. So here's the final page of the outline of the Build Back Better agenda and the offsets, in other words, how they're going to pay for all this. Ask largest corporations and highest income Americans to pay their fair share and reduce cost of prescription drugs. So let's analyze this. The plan is more than fully paid for by asking the wealthiest Americans and most profitable corporations to pay their fair share. It does not raise taxes on small business and anyone making less than $400,000 per year. It will also generate economic growth that will increase tax revenue and contribute to deficit reduction. And so, what the Build Back Better agenda is trying to do is, and I quote, stop profitable corporations from paying zero in tax and stop rewarding corporations that buy back stocks rather than invest in their company. In other words, when a company buys back stock, what the company is doing is effectively making its stock more valuable because the company is essentially reducing the available stock that's out there. Folks, stock prices are a function of supply and demand. So, if a company buys back its own stock, there's less stock available for people to buy, and that's why stock prices tend to go up. So, what the government is saying, hey, instead of using money to buy back your own stock, what you should be doing is investing in your employees, hiring more people, raising wages, offering more benefits, and investing in your own infrastructure and making sure your company grows and investing in research. So, super interesting. Stop profitable corporations from paying zero in income tax and stop rewarding corporations that buy back stock rather than invest in their company. 15% corporate minimum tax on large corporations, 1% surcharge on stock buybacks. Stop rewarding corporations for shipping jobs and profits overseas. In other words, the country will start to charge a global minimum tax, and this is consistent with OECD. This is an international organization, and with appropriate effective date for 15% country by country. In other words, the United States wants countries all over the world to charge that global corporate minimum tax, and also a penalty rate for foreign corporations based in non-compliant countries. Very interesting. In other words, these are corporations that essentially do business in the US, make money from American customers, but who are based overseas with overseas employees and essentially charge them a penalty. Also, ask higher income Americans to pay their fair share. New surtax, a new charge, a new tax, if you will, on multimillionaires and billionaires. Close Medicare self-employment tax loophole by strengthening the net investment income tax for those making over $400,000. Continue limitation on excess business losses. In other words, don't allow businesses to say, hey, I lost money, so I'm going to pay less by way of taxes, and also investing in IRS reinforcement. So you can start to see, folks, this is a very significant and a very ambitious plan. But I can tell you that there is one person that is getting in the way. That is the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, Joe Manchin. In fact, this is what Senator Amy Klobuchar, the Democrat, had to say about the fellow Democrat, Joe Manchin. She said this, as Senator Patty Murray said the other day, we don't think one man should stand in the way of the women of this country finally getting some help with paid family leave. Because, folks, that is the one thing that is falling on the chopping block as a direct result of Joe Manchin. Let's roll the tape and see what Senator Klobuchar had to say. Let's watch.
As Patty Murray said the other day, we don't think one man should stand in the way of the women of this country finally getting some help with paid family leave. And that's the debate we're having right now in the Senate. And Senator Manchin signaled just yesterday that he might be open to some paid family leave.
So that's where we stand, everybody. That's the breaking news about the new framework of the $1.75 trillion plan from President Biden as the president tries to get it done before he leaves for the European Climate Summit in Glasgow. And he's about to leave within the next 24 hours. Thank you so much for watching. Please click like, please click subscribe, please enable notifications. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.